Back with another edition of the MIAA A-Game Show with Commissioner Mike Racy. Hope you've had a good summer so far, but I know it's been very busy for you as well.
Yeah, it's always a good time in the summer to slow down a little bit, do some planning and reflection on the year that just happened. But yeah, it's going well, and it's good to catch up with you, Chris. Good to see you.
Absolutely. I know we talked, I think it was early May, mid-May. We're like, yeah, we'll catch up in about a month. And I went, oh, the month is already here. And we're already back at it. Because I know in about 4 weeks, 5 weeks, we're back in fall sports mode. So we'll catch up here today with some stuff that's been going on the last month or so, kind of some legislation stuff that's popping up and kind of some stuff that you guys have been working on as well. First one, MIAA eliminating the transfer restriction. I know in today's college athletics, transferring happens a lot. I mean, especially Division I's a lot worse, but Division II, there's still a ton of transferring going on. What goes into the decision to eliminate the restriction there?
Well, really an opportunity, I think, every year for the MIAA ADs and our presidents to reflect on some of the policies we have, and we've had a policy in place for a number of years that if you're going to transfer between one MIAA school to another, regardless what the NCAA rule is, you're still going to have to sit out a full year before you compete. And more and more conferences in Division I and Division II have gotten rid of that policy. I think just the landscape of things that have changed with the NCAA transfer rule. Obviously, the threat of litigation of having that type of policy puts a conference and schools at risk. And, I think our presidents and ADs just felt that the time was right at this summer's meeting to remove that restriction. And now, MIAA student athletes, they can transfer anywhere they want in Division I and II. And as long as they're eligible per NCAA rules, they'll be eligible to compete right away, even within the MIAA structure. There's a lot of noise and talk about, the transfer portal, and, it does cause concern, I think, for a lot of folks around higher education on, whether that's the best thing to happen for a student as it relates to their staying on track to earn a degree, to, build credit hours and progress towards that degree. But I will say that, the MIAA schools benefit from the transfer portal as much as we lose students. There are a lot of student athletes in Division II and Division I that after their first school that they go to realize that an MIAA school is where they would like to compete. For some students, it's closer to home. For other students, it gives them a chance on a large platform to compete for national championships. So, the transfer portal has been good to our institutions, and we've also lost a few high-profile student athletes. But I think the president's made the right decision on this one, Chris, that, it was time for the MIAA to remove that restriction. And we'll have, I'm sure, some MIAA student athletes that are competing for one MIAA school during one calendar year or academic year to be on a different roster in the MIAA the following year. And if that's what's best for that student, if that's what they want, it'll be nice to keep them in the MIAA.
With that too, is some of it probably competitive balance or nature as well, because the league doesn't want to lose student athletes to another Division II. Division I's a different story, but you don't want to lose Division II athletes because if they don't want to sit out that year. Is that some of it that had to be taken into consideration too? Was you don't want to lose a student athlete that's really, really good just because they don't want to sit out that year?
I think absolutely. The way I look at it as commissioner of the MIAA, if we have a student athlete that doesn't feel like they're, getting what they need out of a student athlete experience at a particular institution for whatever the reason, If we can keep them in our conference and let them have success someplace else, that's great. Not all of our institutions would feel that way,
Right.
but certainly someone that thinks about the MIAA as a brand and how we're perceived and our overall strength from sport to sport, both regionally and nationally. We want the best student athletes to come to the MIAA, and we want them to stay in the MIAA and graduate from our MIAA schools.
Not to go too far down a rabbit hole, because I'm sure we could for a while. When you look at decisions like this having to be made, could you imagine maybe 15 years ago, 20 years ago, that these type of decisions or these type of thoughts had to go into making these type of situations? Like you said, there's branding that goes into it. There's competitive to keep the MIAA as one of the top ones. But at the same time, back then, it was like, no, you can't just go transfer to a neighboring school because you don't want to be where you're at either. But a lot has changed, obviously.
There is, and I think, obviously our coaches, part of the rule was to help our coaches not feel like the schools that they're playing, night in, night out, every year in that particular sport within the conference, that they have to guard their student athletes from, talking to other conference coaches or having concerns about that. But it's just where we're at now with intercollegiate athletics, that the student athletes have more rights and more opportunities, and part of that is being able to move and play right away at a school if the school that they first selected didn't work out, and really no reason that we should put up additional restrictions from that happening from one MIAA school to the other MIAA school.
Also, some changes at the league office too. You guys have been making some hiring for a director for student athlete development. What goes into a position like that when you look at student athlete development in this day and age?
Well, I think it relates directly to what we were just talking about, Chris. I'm excited about this position. As you and others know, Marshall Fay, longtime service in the conference at Northwest Missouri State, and then for a period with the MIAA office, and handled our external work. He's decided to do something outside of athletics, and it gave us a chance to really reflect on our 5 positions in the office. And I wanted to create something that really, I don't think there's something like it throughout at least Division II, and that's a position at the conference office that their primary responsibility is to serve as that liaison to our current student athletes. And this position will obviously oversee our student athlete advisory committee. They'll shepherd our work for student athletes on mental wellness. They'll take the lead on name, image, likeness initiatives from the conference office. They'll spend a lot of time on campus talking to our campus student athlete advisory committees and understanding the issues that our student athletes are concerned about. Our new constitution, Chris, gives student athletes a voice on all of our important committees and groups that we haven't had before. And for student athletes to be effective in those roles, it's going to require someone in our office spending time thinking about what they need to share. What do student athletes need? What do we need to share with student athletes for them to be prepared to talk about and make decisions on important issues? And so it's an opportunity for us to really have a real student focus from our office. Our campuses do a great job of that on campus. We need to do a better job of that from the conference office. And this position, we're currently interviewing. We've got great candidates, all recent former MIAA student athletes who have applied and are the finalists. And I'm excited to have that new person start here sometime in August, and I think it'll really allow us to be an even more effective conference office, Chris, having the voice of the student athlete so apparent and so upfront in everything that we do.
Also, some new features maybe coming to the MIAA network as well this I guess academic year. I don't know why I wanted to say year because we're halfway through, but the academic year. Some new things in the works for you guys as well.
Yeah, we've got something we're launching, and we'll have something we'll probably share here on our MIAA website and social media platforms soon. But it's a feature of the MIAA network that will allow our institutions to designate an event as a premium event, and it'll allow them to create some pricing for that event. That if someone's coming in just to watch that particular game, it'll be a little more expensive than someone that is going in and watching that game because they purchased an MIAA subscription. We've got a number of big non-conference football games, Chris, that will occur in the fall. And, this allows us to have kind of some market pricing, knowing that there are going to be a lot of people that want to come in and watch some of those games. Our MIAA subscribers, our monthly subscribers, our annual subscribers won't see any difference at all in the pricing. We're featuring the same prices we had last year. But if someone, a casual college sports fan wants to come in and watch, let's say, for instance, the Ferris State at Pittsburgh State football game, that's going to be a premium event, and it's going to cost more to come in and watch that game. And, we feel that, it's the same way that, an institution is able to, or an NFL team, have different prices for different games based on market demand and what people are willing to spend and pay. And so we'll have that as a feature in our network. Why would we do that? Well, the network is really intended to allow our institutions to generate revenue based on quality broadcasts. And part of week 0 was the opportunity to get some early season big time college football matchups that not only are going to be important as it relates to rankings and potentially playoff berths and seeding, but also matchups and games that college football fans want to watch. And Pittsburgh State should be rewarded for hosting that game, for scheduling that game, and they will be through the tickets they sell for people to come and watch in person, and then also the day passes that are sold for people to come and watch that premium event on the MIAA network. The incentive is really, if you don't want to be caught up in the premium event pricing, buy a monthly subscription or an annual subscription,
right? Yeah,
and you'll get everything you need. But it's an exciting development. Our partners at Huddle have helped us work through some of these issues, and that'll be ready to launch in the fall. And like I said, we'll have a release or some information about that out there sometime in August.
A lot of big football events this fall, but Brett Easley here with the St. Joe Sports Commission, there's always not a shortage of basketball events, and women's basketball has been very popular here in St. Joseph the last couple of years. This November, no different. 2 events with the MIAA and Division II teams coming to Civic Arena, 2 different weekends, basically. We'll start with the D2 CCA Women's Basketball Tip-Off Classic, and that is quite the field. It's a national showcase of sorts. We'll run through the teams: Central Missouri, Pittsburgh State, Northwest, and Missouri Southern out of the MIAA. Then Southern Nazarene, Ferris State, Ashland, and Texas Women's. Some of those names will sound familiar for local people who maybe watched the Elite 8 this past year, but that is quite the November 2nd and 3rd event at Civic Arena here in St. Joseph.
Yeah, boy, if you're a fan of college women's basketball, St. Joe's the place to be the first couple of weeks in November. But that CCA exempt event that will occur November 2nd and 3rd at Civic Arena. We've got 4 teams from the MIAA, but the other 4, Chris, Southern Nazarene, Ferris State, Ashland, and Texas Women's. Those are women's basketball powerhouses. Year in and year out. Probably again this year, and every one of those games will present a very tough, difficult matchup for our MIAA programs, and it's a St. Joe has become, through the NCAA tournaments, kind of a women's basketball headquarters for Division II, and a great treat for us to the MIAA to help sponsor an exempt event with the quality of these teams and do it at Civic Arena in St. Joe. It's good way to start the college basketball season.
Now you mentioned the other 4 teams. Texas Women's was the runner-up to Minnesota State. Southern Nazarene lost in the Central Region Final to Minnesota State. You have Ferris State, who lost in the semifinals of the national tournament, and then Ashland, who lost to Ferris State in the semis of their regional.
Right.
So you take away regionalization, who knows? But those are some very high-powered teams, 3 of the 4 with 30-plus wins last year as well.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. And then, obviously we've got some of the best out of our conference, with Central Missouri, Pitt State, Northwest, Missouri Southern. All 4 teams have a lot to look forward to this coming year, returning players and new players, and will be near the top of our standings. So it's a great test early for our schools and how they'll stack up against some of the best in Division II.
Then the following weekend back at Civic Arena, the Division II Central Region Showcase, which will have Emporia State, Fort Hays, Missouri Western, Northwest, and then you have Sioux Falls, Augustana, Minnesota State Moorhead, and then the defending national champions, Minnesota State, coming to town too. So that field, not easier if you look out for the MIAA.
No, that's the field of the power in the region, and it just goes to show you how stacked the Central Region is. We talk about it a lot, but in every sport, and especially women's basketball, doesn't get any better than that. You just went through the list, the lineup of the teams that will be there for that showcase. So, as I said, if you don't have much going on the first couple of weeks in November, find your way to St. Joe, and you're going to see some of the best women's college basketball in the country.
We'll talk about it as it gets closer to November, but November 2nd and 3rd, that's Saturday, Sunday, and then the 8th and 9th of Friday, Saturday. So there will be 16 games over 4 days there at Civic Arena, some high-powered Division II women's basketball. But we'll move on, and we'll talk about it's quite the interesting concept, I think, that's being looked at in Division II. The possible elimination of the football-only vote in Division II. That one sparked quite a bit of conversation, I think. You've talked about it quite a bit on social media, but I've seen others chime in as well. Trying to do away with football-only schools, having those only votes there. Just overall thoughts on that possibility there.
Yeah, I think some of this is just outcome of last year's NCAA convention, and we saw a membership proposal week 0 that wasn't supported by the NCAA governance groups. In fact, they were opposed and spoke in opposition on the convention floor. The Student Athlete Advisory Committee spoke against the week 0 proposal, but there was a groundswell of momentum from MIAA and other Division II football conferences that this was important, and it passed, not by a lot, but it passed, and I think it's caused a number of folks within the governance structure, including the National Student Athlete Advisory Committee, to ask the question of why why should football have a football only vote and other sports don't? And I think that's a good question. It's a fair
Yeah.
question. My answer to it is every sport uh, should have that as part of a governing principle. If MIAA schools don't sponsor lacrosse, um, our schools that don't sponsor lacrosse should not vote on a lacrosse issue. I get that. So
Hmm.
I don't have a problem with the question. I do have a concern though if the answer is to just eliminate the football only vote. We've talked about um, how significant football is for the institutions that sponsor it. Not just from the standpoint of generating revenue and fan interest and branding and using it to promote the school and to connect with alumni and to entertain donors, but just the overall investment that schools that sponsor football make. The average expense for football last year for schools that sponsor football, over $8 million athletic budget, and almost 2 million of that is being spent on football.
Yeah.
And when you make that kind of an investment and have that kind of a significant part of your budget that's tied up in that sport, really only schools that sponsor that sport should be allowed to decide things like when the season starts, how many games you play, how many scholarships should you be allowed to give. The democratic process for football schools should make those decisions. And if you don't have football, you shouldn't be involved in that debate and you shouldn't be involved in that voting. So, but I think the question's fair. Why should football be the only sport where sport-specific voting occurs? And I agree it shouldn't be. All sports should be. If a school does not have rowing, it shouldn't vote on a rowing issue, a rowing specific legislative proposal. So all of this will be debated and talked about in July, Chris, at the NCAA meetings. And my hope is that the solution's not to do away with the football only vote that's been around in Division II since the division was created in the 1970s. Football only voting has been around the NCAA since Teddy Roosevelt called football schools to his office to help create the NCAA back in 1906. So the concept's been around a long time. We should not get rid of it because of concerns about the way votes, the outcome of votes recently, but rather, if we want to move in a direction, let's be innovative and allow every sport to have some of the same benefits that football has of only schools sponsoring that sport, making decisions about its governance and legislative future.
Well, to keep an eye on that one, like you said, next month, a lot of discussion going to go into what that potentially will, I guess, the future that will be here for the coming years. Like you said, it's been around for a long time that whether people like it or not, football has its big piece in college athletics where football should make football decisions. Like you said, basketball make basketball. I mean,
right.
Yeah. So we'll have to see kind of how that one unfolds here in the next several months as well.
Yeah, we'll know in July if if the governance groups are going to sponsor something, and then that would be a debate at the January convention where it would have to either get approved or not approved based on whatever they come up with. So, stay tuned, watch that carefully because it is a very important issue for the MIAA and other football conferences, and really help impact membership decisions on where schools want to play and where they want to compete.
Another big day in July coming up, July 21st, MIAA Day at the K, but it's big for that, but also big for you because you're going to be throwing out the first pitch at Kauffman Stadium. The Royals having a pretty good season so far. So are you ready to have thousands and thousands of people there ready to watch you throw out that first pitch?
The answer to that is no, but but I'm excited about it. I've done that once at the Division II College World Series many years ago when my fastball was a little faster and my breaking ball had a little more break on it. My catcher on that Sunday at Kauffman Stadium will be Deputy Commissioner Amber Feldman. So her and I have
been practicing.
We have started to throw a little bit at Hy-Vee Arena out on the courts, and she's hopeful not only that I will not embarrass myself, but not embarrass her by throwing a ball in the dirt or over her head. So we've got some practice to do, but seriously though, Chris, it's going to be a great day for the MIAA, and just grateful to the Kansas City Royals for executing this. Historically, I think the Royals have enjoyed a day at the K for schools like University of Missouri and the University of Kansas, Kansas State University. I think Nebraska, University of Nebraska is having a day at the K this year. And for the MIAA schools to have the same opportunity where their alumni groups are able to activate and sell tickets and bring people to Kauffman Stadium to watch the Royals game, and as part of their ticket to get a Kansas City Royals hat with the Pittsburgh State or UCM or Fort Hays State, etc. logo on the side of it. That's a big deal, and we're really excited that we'll have a day to celebrate the MIAA and all of our members at the K, and hopefully help cheer on the Royals to another victory.
But really, you have to be in your seats a little bit early so they can see your first pitch too, right?
Yeah. Hopefully, hopefully that'll be the only place that people will see it, and it won't be some sort of viral sensation on YouTube or other channels. Hopefully,
well, luckily, no one has cell phones or iPhones or anything, so I think you should be clear that as long as you don't do what 50 Cent did, you'll be fine. And just when he just threw it straight down to the first base dugout, basically. So as long as you don't do that, you're fine.
Right. I hope to hit Amber's mitt and stay on my feet. And if I do both of those things, I'll consider it a win.
There you go. MIAA Day at the K, July 21st. I've seen the hats. You guys have posted those too. Those are very nice looking hats as well for the MIAA and the Royals getting that put together. So it should be a fun day for the league there at Kauffman Stadium.
Yep. We're looking forward to it. Hope you can come out, Chris. And just don't heckle the pitcher though before the first pitch.
Yeah, no promises on that. MIAA Commissioner Mike Racy, thank you as always for the time. Good catching up with you.
Good to see you, Chris. Thank you.